A storm's fury consumed the African jungle. 75-mile-per-hour winds shredding 100-foot trees, 6-inch raindrops hammering like cannon fire. In a 60-foot clearing, 9 lions, each 500 pounds, stalked a lone woman, their roars a thunder louder than the tempest. One man, Tarzan, 6'3", forged by apes, scarred by a life of battles, surged through the dark to save her. Why risk his soul against 2-inch claws for a stranger? What drove him into a night where lightning blazed 80 yards away, floodwaters rose 8 feet, and death lurked in every shadow? This saga of unbreakable courage will grip every American, from Montana ranchers to Miami parents, pulling you into a heart-pounding fight for survival. Picture standing 20 feet from a 600-pound lion, its eyes burning through the dark, its breath hot with hunger. Would you face it or flee? Hit subscribe, drop your city, Denver, Chicago, or beyond in the comments, and brace for a tale that'll sear your heart and soul. Dive into the wild now and feel the jungle's pulse. The African rainforest, a 1,000-square-mile labyrinth of 100-foot mahogany behemoths and 20-foot vines, lay entombed in a night blacker than a panther's hide. A storm, born of some primal wrath, unleashed 75 mph winds that wrenched 50-foot palms into grotesque arcs, their fronds snapping like bones, the cracks echoing like gunfire through the gale. Rain plummeted in 6-inch torrents, transforming the jungle floor into a 7-inch deep morass of mud, tangled roots, and splintered branches, each step a battle against suction and slime. Lightning, sharp as a shattered spear, tore the sky every 5 seconds, its blinding white pulses casting the chaos in stark relief before plunging it back into an abyss of shadow. Thunder followed, a 140-decibel roar that shuddered through the 200-foot canopy, its reverberations clashing with the primal bellows of predators below, their hunger a living pulse woven into the storm's relentless heart. In a 60-foot clearing, Elena Voss, a 28-year-old American botanist, clung to a 45-foot acacia tree, its bark slick as ice under her 5'6" frame, the wood groaning under her weight. Her khaki shirt, drenched to translucence, clung to her trembling body, her brown hair plastered across a face pale as moonlight, eyes wide with a terror that clawed her chest like a living beast. 7 hours earlier, she'd strayed 2.5 miles from her expedition camp, chasing a rare orchid, her team scattered when the storm's wrath descended like a biblical deluge. Now, 10 feet above the ground, she gripped a 3-inch branch, its jagged edges cutting into her palms, her fingers numb from cold and exhaustion, blood trickling from 1-inch abrasions. Her breath came in ragged bursts, each one a fight against the panic swelling like the river 600 yards away, its waters now an 8-foot flood roaring like a freight train. Below, a pride of 9 lions, each 500 pounds, their manes sodden, muscles rippling like coiled steel, circled with lethal precision, their amber eyes glowing in lightning's flash, burning like embers in the void, locked on her with unrelenting hunger. The largest lion, a male with a 7-inch scar slashing its muzzle, roared, a 120-decibel bellow that vibrated through Elena's bones, its 2-inch claws raking the trunk, carving 8-inch gashes that bled sap like a wounded beast. Another lion, leaner but no less deadly, leaped 8 feet, its jaws snapping 2 inches from her dangling boot, the stench of its breath, rotting flesh and iron choking her senses, a rancid cloud that lingered in the rain. A third, its 500-pound frame lunging 7 feet, grazed her leg, leaving a 1-inch scratch that burned like acid, blood mixing with rain. A fourth, 520 pounds, clawed the tree's base, splintering a 4-inch branch, the crack echoing like a gunshot. Elena's heart thundered, a relentless hammer against her ribs, each beat a plea to survive. She'd trekked 2,500 miles across jungles, earned her degree at Cornell, faced Amazon rapids, but this was a nightmare no field guide could tame. Her pack, lost 800 yards back, held her 6-inch knife, useless against 4,500 pounds of predatory might. Her arms quaked, muscles screaming, the branch creaking under her 130 pounds, threatening to snap. Lightning revealed the pride tightening, their roars a death knell audible 900 yards away, a chorus that drowned the storm's howl. Elena pressed her cheek to the bark, its rough grain a fleeting anchor to reality, and saw her father's face, a Montana ranger, his eyes steady through blizzards, teaching her at 10 to track elk in 4-foot snow. A memory surged, his calloused hand guiding hers to read hoofprints, his voice promising she'd outlast any storm. Another flashed, her at 15, lost in a Wyoming forest, surviving 2 nights by his lessons, building a 3-foot shelter from pine. She clung to that resolve, a spark in the dark. But the tree shuddered. A lion's leap splintering a lower branch, dropping her 2 feet closer to death. The scarred male leapt again, its 2-inch fangs grazing her ankle, a 1-inch nick sending a jolt of pain. She kicked instinctively, her boot glancing its snout, buying a heartbeat's reprieve, but the pride's eyes never wavered, their hunger a palpable force. A mile and a half away, Tarzan moved through the storm like a wraith forged by the jungle's soul. At 6'3", 220 pounds, his body was a tapestry of scars. Leopard claws across his chest, a crocodile's bite on his thigh, a hyena's tear on his shoulder, a poacher's bullet graze on his ribs, etched in 30 years raised by apes. His black hair, shoulder length, whipped in the gale, his loincloth sodden, rain streaming off his bronzed skin like rivers down a cliff. He swung 70 yards per leap, gripping 25-foot vines with hands calloused as granite, their sap stinging 2-inch cuts from thorns, his bare feet finding 2-inch holds on branches, 45 feet high, slick as oil. The jungle was his lifeblood, its rhythms his heartbeat, every rustle a language he'd learned before words. 4 hours ago, he'd heard Elena's scream, a faint cry slicing through the storm's roar, striking him like a flint-sparked blaze, a call he couldn't ignore. His dark eyes, sharp as a falcon's, pierced the night. Guided by instincts honed in hunts against 400-pound gorillas, 15-foot pythons, and poachers with 30-caliber rifles, their campfires snuffed by his hand. The storm waged a merciless war against him. Winds tore at his swings, snapping 6-inch branches, one splintering 15 feet below, forcing a 20-foot leap to a 5-inch vine, its fibers straining under his weight. A 12-foot flood surged 500 yards left, the river swollen to 70 feet wide, its roar a rival to the lions, carrying 10-foot logs like kindling. Lightning struck a 100-foot cedar 250 yards off, shattering it into a brief inferno that fizzled in the deluge, the air thick with charred wood. Tarzan's muscles burned, his lungs heaving, each breath a gritty mix of rain, earth, and blood from a 5-inch gash on his forearm, torn by a thorned vine, the pain a dull throb he dismissed. A 20-foot mudslide, 300 yards right, roared like a landslide, forcing a 30-foot detour. The scream had stirred memories of Kala, his ape mother, her warmth shielding him from a leopard at 10, her death at 15, torn apart by a rival troop, leaving a wound deeper than any scar, a grief that fueled his solitary path. Another memory flickered. His ape brother, Kerchak, falling to a hunter's spear, Tarzan's fists pounding the earth at 18, vowing to protect the jungle's heart. A stranger's cry now summoned him, and the jungle's law, protect or perish, propelled him forward. He reached the clearing, dropping 20 feet to an 8-foot branch, his 6-foot spear, ironwood, flint-tipped, honed to a razor's edge, clutched tight, its balance an extension of his arm. Lightning flashed, revealing Elena, 10 feet up, her tree buckling as the scarred male leapt, its fangs missing her by 1 inch, bark flying like shrapnel. The pride's roars, 150-decibel blasts, drowned the storm, their 500-pound bodies coiling like springs, tails lashing in the mud. Tarzan's pulse surged, a hunter's clarity washing over him, the focus that felled a 600-pound buffalo at 20, its horns inches from his chest. Darkness cloaked him, rain masking his scent, but the lions sensed a rival, their ears twitching, eyes scanning the canopy. He struck, a phantom in the tempest, leaping 18 feet to a 6-inch vine, its sap burning his palms. The scarred male clawed the acacia, shredding 4-inch bark strips. Tarzan dropped 15 feet, his spear plunging 8 inches into the lion's flank, blood spraying like ink, the beast roaring, a 150-decibel scream that shook the clearing. It swiped, its 2-inch claws tearing a 3-inch gash across Tarzan's thigh, blood mingling with mud, pain flaring like fire. He rolled 10 feet, dodging a second lion's 18-foot charge, its 2-inch claws raking air, mud splashing 5 feet high. Elena, paralyzed, saw a scarred silhouette, her breath catching as lightning showed his fierce eyes, burning with an unyielding will to protect. 2 lions lunged, their 1,000 pounds surging 20 feet. Tarzan swung 25 feet up a vine, their jaws snapping 8 inches below, their roars vibrating his bones. He hurled a 7-pound rock, cracking one's skull, sending it reeling 8 feet, blood streaming from its brow. The scarred male leaped 15 feet. Tarzan met it mid-air, his spear piercing its shoulder 9 inches deep, the impact jarring his arm. They crashed 12 feet to the mud, the lion's 2-inch fangs grazing his arm, drawing a 2-inch cut, blood hot against his skin. Tarzan's fist, hard as iron, smashed its jaw, a bone-crunching blow, stunning it, its 500-pound frame slumping. A third lion, 550 pounds, charged, its claws slashing, a 3-inch gash opening Tarzan's ribs, pain searing like lightning. He dodged, his spear grazing its ribs, blood flowing. A fourth, 500 pounds, joined, its roar shaking the 60-foot clearing, its 2-inch claws raking a 10-foot arc. A fifth, 520 pounds, leaped from 25 feet, its claws slashing Tarzan's back, a 4-inch gash burning like venom. A sixth, 510 pounds, surged from the shadows, its 150-decibel roar a physical force, its 2-inch fangs bared. Tarzan leaped 12 feet to a 5-foot ledge, the clearing's edge dropping 20 feet to a 50-foot cliff, its base lost in 8-foot floodwaters. The fifth lion followed, its 520-pound frame lunging, forcing Tarzan to swing 15 feet across a 30-foot gap, the vine snapping mid-air, dropping him 10 feet to a 4-inch branch. He caught it, his 220 pounds straining the wood, the sixth lion's claws grazing his leg, a 2-inch cut bleeding freely. Elena's branch snapped, dropping her 5 feet, her body dangling, fingers slipping, mud 10 feet below. Tarzan sprinted 15 feet along the branch, leaping 12 feet, grabbing her wrist, his 220 pounds, pulling her 35 feet up a 45-foot vine to a 20-foot branch, the vine's fibers groaning. The lions leapt, 12 feet high, claws grazing the vine, their roars a 160-decibel chorus that shook the canopy. A 50-foot tree, struck by lightning 100 yards off, crashed 20 feet away, its 10-inch trunk splintering, blocking 2 lions. The scarred male charged the cliff edge, 15 feet off, its 500-pound frame slipping in mud, claws scrabbling. Tarzan hurled his spear, a 20-foot throw, piercing its chest 10 inches, the lion collapsing, blood pooling in the 7-inch mud. The remaining lions circled below, their eyes locked on the branch, hunger undimmed. Lightning showed Elena's tear-streaked face, her strength fading, her 130 pounds sagging against Tarzan. His bloodied arm, gashed and bruised, held her steady, his eyes fierce, the jungle's indomitable spirit burning in his chest. A warrior defying the storm's merciless wrath. Tarzan's stand in that stormy jungle was more than a fight. It was courage forged in the crucible of instinct and loss. Battling 6 500-pound lions through a 75-mile-per-hour tempest, he risked everything for a stranger, a beacon for every American, from Wyoming trappers to Georgia parents. Elena's resolve, clinging to a 45-foot tree as 2-inch claws slashed below, proves resilience thrives in terror's shadow. A lesson for grandparents, workers, and dreamers in Ohio, Oregon, or beyond. Tarzan's scars, carved by ape bonds and battles, echo the trials of pioneers facing frontier wolves, showing bravery is earned through pain, not born. Elena's scream, a jungle SOS, mirrors amber alerts in our cities, urging us to hear silent cries, on playgrounds, in malls, at dusk. This saga, raw as a Montana blizzard, pushes U.S. viewers aged 25 to 70 to act when darkness closes in, to be the shield for the vulnerable. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's charging through 6-inch rain, bloodied and battered, to save a life. Let's teach our children to stand tall, train our eyes to see peril, and summon the strength to be the hero a stranger needs, just as Tarzan was in that relentless, storm-torn night. If Tarzan's clash with 6 lions in a 75-mile-per-hour storm set your heart racing, slam that like button to keep these sagas alive. Subscribe and ring the bell for daily adventures, crafted for Americans craving grit and heart, from Alaska's icy trails to Miami's sunlit streets. Share this with your hiking crew, book club, PTA, or veterans group. Spread the call to face life's beasts with courage. Comment below. Where are you watching? Phoenix, Tulsa, or Boston? Ever faced a moment that demanded raw guts? Your story could spark millions. Check our last video on a sailor's survival, popping up now, and dive into its thrills. For exclusive Tarzan sketches, jungle survival tips, or behind-the-scenes lore, join our Patreon, link in the description. Every like, share, or comment fuels a tribe of bold souls, like 6 million X posts cheering a hero's stand. Let's roar louder than 500-pound lions, drown out the storm's howl. Engage now, tell us your city, and join us tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern for another epic tale you'll never forget. Be the courage you admire.